In today's video, I'm going to be sharing footage from the last 5 days where I completely filled my woodshed out there, that one right there, that I recently finished building. And I finished it here in the summertime, which is when I like to go out and gather my firewood so that when the bad weather rolls around and it's cold and it's rainy and wet here in the Pacific Northwest, I have plenty of dry firewood to keep me warm during the winter months. So in this video, I do a lot of splitting out here in front of the cabin. I go out on the nearby forest roads to get some more wood. I go to a local community area where there was some free alder that I picked up. All kinds of stuff that I do in this video, so let's just jump right into it. So before I start sharing footage from day one, I want to give you all a little backstory leading up to the moment where I am right now. Like I said, I finished the woodshed, but before I constructed the woodshed, I had some leftover wood from last year's stock, and I kept all of that underneath a tarp that was my woodshed before I built this one, and that wood has been there the whole time that I was building the woodshed. Now that it's done, I unstacked all of it, threw it in a giant pile in front of the woodshed. So day one, I was joined by the lovely Julia. She just moved back to Washington after being in Southern California for several months, and as you can see, the two of us got a few stacks the day that she was here. But it's been so hot that all this stuff is super dry and ready to go. And then the opposite way with the next two. And you just keep on going. Yeah, another trick.
What I wanted to do is I wanted to find good pieces for it.
So a few things of note in this footage are two things that I learned from neighbor Al about the way that he stacks firewood. And one is the way that I'm stacking it on the edges of the woodshed. And then another thing is how I tie the two stacks together. So Al's got this technique here where he puts a stick between the two stacks and that ties them together. Makes it a little more sturdy, less likely to tip over. There you go. And then when you put the next piece on top of that,
it kind of ties it together.
Yeah. He's real specific about the outside stacking method.
Yeah.
Uses quarter pieces to make it more sturdy on the ends, and then the middle can be kind of unspecific. Nudge it in there, and then you set a piece right there. If we do that, like here, 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 and then again up here, then they'll be kind of locked together. Yeah, that's a weird one.
So funny too.
I can get it from there. The next day after this footage that you're seeing right now, it was 94, 95 degrees, super hot. So I was like, you know what? Forget this. We're not doing any firewood. So let's go to the river instead. And so we went for a hike, and I didn't record any of that, but I got a few photos. So we had a good time. It was much better than spending those couple super hot days stacking firewood. So I gave it a few days rest to spend some time with Julia, but then I returned. All right, everybody, it's been a few days since Julia was here, and we made these two stacks in the woodshed, and I have some work cut out for me. I got to stack what remains from this pile right here, and then I got to chop all that up into rounds, split them. Then I got to deal with all that cedar that was left over from the shakes, and then later on, I don't know what I'm gonna do with all that stuff, but I'll figure it out. Let's just get to work. I finally bought a new chain for my chainsaw. All of the wood cutting that I have done with this chainsaw, I have done with this one chain since I bought this thing, and I've been sharpening it over and over and over, and the last time I sharpened it, there was a few teeth where there was just about nothing left. So I bought 2 new chains. I'm gonna use this new one today. So it's the beginning of a new era of my chainsawing. And then lightning bugs are floating on the breeze. You and me go fishing in the dark. So these logs that are on the ground here, those I gathered during the woodshed build. They were alders that I didn't end up using in the construction because I used Douglas fir for that entire woodshed build. But since I was out there on the roads, I grabbed this alder that I could later use for firewood. So that is where these logs came from. Quick note about the footage that you're seeing here. When I'm running the generator here at the cabin, I'm not only charging the batteries that you see, which I use for not only my chainsaw but all of my Makita power tools. I'm also charging my bank of batteries, and I'm also charging my laptop, and I'm also powering my Starlink internet, and I'm also charging the batteries for the camera that I use to record these videos. So I think a lot of people are mistaken, and then they get their undies in a bundle about me using a battery powered chainsaw. Why don't you use a gas powered chainsaw? Blah, blah, blah. So I'll probably make a video about this subject someday, but I just wanted to add that little fun fact about my life in here. Off-grid life for me up here at my cabin as a full-time YouTuber means constantly charging batteries. And now This stuff is cedar bolts that were going to be used for the cedar shakes of the roof of the woodshed that I got from neighbor Al. He had had them for a very long time. They were very, very old. And around the outside, they had some rot, but we were like, the core is probably pretty good because we split a few of them and they were really, really nice. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll take them all. Once I started splitting into them, unfortunately, I learned that a lot of them had rot to the core. So my initial thought was, man, I should give these back to Al, but he was wanting to get rid of them because he said he didn't have any use for them. And I had already brought an entire truckload of really small stuff that were like excess shavings from the cedar bolts that I did end up making, or the cedar shakes that I did end up making. And after I brought that truckload, Al said it without saying it exactly. He's like, hey man, I don't need any more cedar from you. Like, please don't bring any more of that here. Because it's like, it's a nice gesture at one point and then it becomes too much. And it's like, hey, it becomes a burden. Like, I can't, what am I going to do with all this wood? Stop bringing it to me. So I'm pretty sure Al doesn't want any of this stuff. And I don't know what else to do with it because it's not really good for anything if it has rot, if it's rotten to the core. And then even some of the ones that were good, they still had life in them. They had a giant knot that prevented me from using them for shakes or anything else. So almost all that stuff is it just needs to be burned. All right, everybody, it's day 3 out here of this firewood haul, and it's looking a lot better around here. I got all those giant cedar bolts cut into this firewood here. As far as this giant pile right here, I'm just going to transport it over to that spot because I really want to have access to my garage again. That would be nice. So I'm going to move all that over here to where I raked all of the bark from all the logs that I used to build the woodshed. Raked all that over here and just kind of thinly spread it out as like mulch. So that's just going to turn into dirt eventually. For now, I'm just going to transport all that cedar kindling over to this spot right here and basically move that pile. And I have some ideas of what to do with it, but that'll be later on. I really need to focus on just filling the woodshed right now. Almost forgot this thing again. All right, well, I got it out of there, but I'm just kind of dragging it along the hillside here. There it is right there. So the cable's working. I just gotta go that way, I think. Oh my God. I tried to roll it off the road to get it out of the middle of the road, and then it got away from me. And it almost sent me down the hill with it. So man, I don't know about this method. All right, that was a little better. All right, that kind of got all twisted up, but now I remember when Al gave me this, there was a short chain on one end, and I didn't realize that until right now. So I either forgot that at the cabin or I forgot it at Al's. But he made this with a short chain, and that was supposed to wrap around the log. Yeah, I think the chain is supposed to go on this end, and then this is allowed to swivel, so all that binding doesn't happen on the guy wire.
So if you don't have a swivel, when you pull on it, it gets all twisted up and stuff.
Smart.
That should keep it good.
All right, so first try with this thing was kind of a success. I got a log off the side of the road that I would have otherwise had to flip like I did before. So I think I need to find that chain and give it a try on another day. But I think the rest of the day, I'm just gonna try and find some easy access logs and do minimal flipping.
You know the day destroys the night. Bring on you to the other side.
All right, so this footage right here where I'm near this waterfall thing, this is one of those things where at the time I was like, oh, this is an awesome spot, so much firewood. And I did recognize that, hey, I have to be careful here because my chainsaw flings all that bar and chain oil to lubricate the chain. And you got to be careful when you're doing that close to a natural spring or creek or something like this, because you can fling that bar and chain oil into the water. And that's not good for the wildlife that, you know, lives off of that. So when I was there, I was like, you know, I'm far enough away. I'm going to direct my chain so that it doesn't go towards the water. I'll just be really, really careful. But as I'm watching this footage, it's like making me cringe. And I'm like, it's not a good look. So just to let you know, I am aware of that. And I'm watching this kind of like cringing, like I said. So if I could go back in time, I would have not gotten firewood from this spot. Definitely not getting down by the water. I don't like the way that I did that. Like I said, there's miles and miles. I didn't have to get it from right here, but just because I was like, oh, this is a cool shot with the camera, and it was hot. And when you're by the water, it's nice and cool. So, but I kind of regret doing this right here. So be advised, everybody who wants to do something like this, think about that. Think about your bar and chain oil getting flung and what can be the repercussions of that for the natural environment around you. All right, so it looks like this is all still day 4. I'm wearing the same shirt. Wow, I did a lot that day. I'm like, are you sure this is the same day? But yeah, this is day 4. I went down to a area that all of my neighbors around here, it's like a community area. Somebody, I don't know the backstory, but somebody dropped off a bunch of alder logs. Now these logs are very green. This tree apparently was fallen somewhere and then hauled, and those logs were dropped off, but it was recently alive. So that's what I mean by green. So it's much more difficult to split. It's very, very heavy, and these logs are pretty big. So it's free. It just was a little bit more difficult to deal with. And I've known about this for several weeks, and I thought it was all going to disappear really quickly. I learned about it in the middle of my woodshed build. I was like, oh man, hope I can get some of that. But I was so busy on building the woodshed, I'm like, I don't have time to go down there and get it. But luckily, there's still a bunch left over there, and I got some of it. So that's what I'm doing here, is gathering logs from down there. Okay everybody, this should be the final day of this firewood haul video. If all goes well, I should be able to fill up the rest of the woodshed over there. I'm gonna go down to where I was yesterday and just cut rounds. And I'm gonna try and fill up the entire bed of my truck with rounds, which will be more than I need to fill up the woodshed, but I'll just stack the rounds, the extra rounds, over off to the side. And if I happen to go through all of the wood inside the woodshed in the middle of winter, well then I'll have some rounds off to the side that I can split, that have been covered with a tarp, protected from the elements throughout the winter. So that's the plan. Let's do it. I don't have far to go, so I'm just gonna drive real slow. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Looks like I'm gonna watch this footage right here in real time with you. Here I'm time-lapsing me cleaning up after myself, raking out the driveway, reparking the truck, and there is the woodshed in all its glory. It is completely full of firewood stacked to the loft floor there. I got it as tight as possible. I used Al's method of stacking on the edges to keep it from collapsing, because the way that I built the woodshed, there's no walls. So there's nothing really to hold it from falling over. So I think I did a pretty good job. I wouldn't want to go in there and like grab one of those piles and shake it really bad. Hopefully there's no earthquakes, because all that might come tumbling down. But I'm confident that the woodshed would still be standing. So you can see here, I'm getting a close-up shot of the stacks. And yeah, it's pretty darn full. Let me pause this here. Let me look this up, because everybody asked me how many cords. I think a cord is 4 by 4 by 8. And that is 12 feet long. 4 by 4 by 8. That would be 3 times 4. Yeah, 4, 8, 12. 4 by 4 by 8. Oh no, that's 2, 4, 6. Okay, if it was packed full, that would be 6 cords. But like I said, it's not exactly 8 feet wide. So let's just say it's 5. It's 5 to 6 cords. On the short end, it would be 5 cords. I think that's a pretty good rough estimate. So off to the side, I moved all of the cedar kindling. Like I said, I have some plans. I don't want to spoil what I plan to do with that, but I got some bigger pieces there. That's all just going to be stuff that I'm going to throw into the wood stove periodically. I'll just grab from that, every once in a while, just to kind of make it disappear. Here's more shots of the firewood in the woodshed, a couple different angles. So yeah, I got a bunch of firewood. This, I'm pretty sure it's going to last me through the winter. I'm not going to have to worry about having to go out and get more wood. Over the course of the next few days, not the next few days, maybe, I don't know, in the next couple weeks, I'm going to go back down to the community area and get more of that. Or maybe I won't, because I do want to let other people take advantage of that. But I got a few of those rounds out there. So I got some extras. Oh yeah, I'm going to cover that with a tarp so that once it starts raining, it'll stay dry. But I'm going to keep track of the weather and wait until it does start raining, so that all of that stuff out there is getting maximum sun exposure, so it dries out as much as possible. And then right before the rain starts, I'll cover it up. Now I'm getting footage of my truck, my super dirty truck, because it is typical that I would wash my truck as a culmination of a completed firewood haul. But I am not going to do that this time, because I'm very tired and I have plans this weekend with the lovely Julia. So I'm just going to be driving around a dirty truck. Another thing that I planned on doing in this video was taking all of the lumber that is around the cabin here and putting it in the upstairs loft of the woodshed, because that's what I designed it for. I've got a stack of wood outside here, scraps from the free deck boards that I got from Joel and Paul. And then behind the garage, I have a bunch of random assortment of 2x4s, trim pieces, pressure treat 4x4s, 2x6s, like all kinds of just kind of random stuff. And I want to take all of my lumber and put it up there, nice and neat. That's what the loft is going to be. That's going to be lumber storage. And I really wanted to get that done and show you guys, like, all right, look at my beautiful lumber storage, but not enough time. Final shot of the awesome beautiness around the cabin. I've said it 1,000 times. I'm going to say it again. Washington is better than wherever you are. So unfortunately, I win in that competition. I feel bad for you that you're not here, but I get to be here. No, I'm semi-joking. There's a lot of awesome places around the world, and I am super biased because I am from Washington State, but I think there's no place better. I love it here. I love you guys. Thank you for watching this video. Really appreciate it. And I will see you on the next one. No spoilers. I usually give a preview of what's going to come next week, but not even going to do that because I've done that pretty accurately in the past where I do exactly what I say I'm going to do. But the last time I said that, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. So I'm like, you're setting yourself up for disappointing a bunch of people. So I think I'm going to stop doing that. And I'm just going to like, this is what Diego's doing this week. I'm just going to surprise you from here on out. So thanks again. Appreciate it. See you on that next video, the next one. Bye.